January 3rd, 2026, 3 o'clock in the morning. Explosions light Caracas skyline as Delta Force strikes Maduro's Miraflores palace. By dawn, he's in chains aboard a C-17 headed to Guantanamo. Trump posts victory selfie from Mar-a-Lago. Venezuela's 303 billion barrels, largest proven reserves on Earth, suddenly flow toward Houston. This wasn't random chaos. It capped a 28-year masterstroke where America watched Venezuela seize refineries, sabotage its own fields, pawn Citgo for survival, then lost everything through sanctions, courts, and commandos. Chevron idles rigs. ExxonMobil dusts off 2007 contracts. From Clinton-era tolerance to Trump's explosive finale, every detonation followed the blueprint. Here's the classified chronology of Washington's Venezuelan oil detonation. 1998. Hugo Chavez wins election promising oil sovereignty. PDVSA, world's most profitable company, pumps 3.5 million barrels daily, generating $40 billion revenue. 95% funds social programs. Per capita income hits $11,000. Chavez nationalizes ExxonMobil, ConocoPhillips, Chevron Fields, offering pennies compensation. 2005. Orinoco Belt declared 513 billion barrels recoverable, 1.3 trillion original oil in place. Extra heavy crude demands specialized refineries. Houston builds them. 2001. PDVSA buys full Citgo ownership. 3 mega refineries. Lake Charles, Lamont, Corpus Christi processing 910,000 barrels daily. 5,500 miles pipelines. 13,400 gas stations across 41 states. Symbiosis complete. Orinoco feeds Citgo cokers. 60% Venezuelan oil refined in America. Chavez rails against imperialism, while depending on U.S. $25 billion downstream empire. Oil peaks $147 per barrel in 2008. Venezuela borrows recklessly against Citgo. $60 billion external debt by 2012. 96% budget oil dependent. Non-oil economy shrinks 24% through 2013. Chavez dies March 2013. Nicolas Maduro inherits corpse as prices crash, $110 to $27 by 2015. 2014. PDVSA production plummets 40% to 2,300,000 barrels daily. 20,000 engineers fired in loyalty purges. Rigs idle. Hyperinflation explodes. 1,100,000% by 2018. Maduro pawns Citgo shares. 49.9% to Rosneft. $1.5 billion loan. 8.33% to bondholders. $2.7 billion. 55% total collateralized. Washington plants first charges. 2015 Obama sanctions target officials, not PDVSA. December 2016, Obama blocks Russian Citgo transfer via executive order, preserving U.S. jurisdiction over $25 billion asset. January 20th, 2017. Trump takes office, activates Phase 2. August 2017 sanctions freeze Venezuelan bonds, gold reserves. PDVSA misses $1.4 billion payments. January 28, 2019. Juan Guaido declares presidency. Trump recognizes within hours. Treasury General License 4 grants Guaido Citgo control, blocks creditors indefinitely. 42 months protection follows. April 12, 2019. Full PDVSA sanctions. U.S. bans oil purchases. 40% market. No diluents for heavy crude. Production crashes 65% to 300,000 barrels daily by 2021. Ghost fleet emerges. 450 tankers, average age 27 years, ship 180 million barrels yearly to China at $22 discounts. 2020. Creditors sharpen knives. Crystalex wins $1.2 billion judgment. ConocoPhillips claims $8.5 billion. Delaware Chancery Court rules November 2021. Citgo shares auctionable. Phase 1 bids total $7.3 billion. Elliott Management. November 5th, 2024. Trump landslide re-election triggers final sequence. December 15th. Trump tweets, Venezuela must return $1 trillion stolen assets. U.S. Navy seizes 7 tankers, 12 million barrels, destined for Cuba. Chevron resumes Petro-Independencia, 220,000 barrels daily. Phase 3. Judicial detonation. January 1st, 2026, Delaware approves $27 billion Citgo auction. Phase 2, Chevron, Exxon, Valero bids $19.8 billion. Proceeds fund Guaido government in exile. Opposition, Aruba operations. The 5-stage detonation blueprint. Charge 1. Infrastructure trap. Citgo's 910,000 barrel daily capacity processes 88% global extra heavy crude. Orinoco requires hydrocrackers only Houston builds. Pre-sanctions. 450,000 barrels daily diluents from Texas. Charge 2. Debt mine. $65 billion PDVSA debt collateralized, 100% Citgo. Guaido recognition nullified. Russian, $19 billion. Chinese, $12 billion claims. Charge 3. Sanctions implosion. Eliminated 52% market, SWIFT, spare parts. GDP contracted 76%. 7 million fled. Production. 3.5 million 2013 to 290,000 2025. Charge 4. Legal kill shot. Delaware precedent. Sovereign assets on U.S. soil answer American courts. $27 billion auction military invasion cost. Charge 5. Regime explosive. Maduro capture voids 58 PDVSA contracts. Orinoco blocks 1 through 7 retendered. Chevron scales 1,200,000 barrels, 14 months. ExxonMobil Z6, 700,000. Total Energies Junin, 500,000. Production resurrection math. Pre-crisis. 3 million barrels daily, $112 billion revenue. Crisis bottom. 290,000 barrels, $11 billion. Post-detonation, 3,500,000 barrels at $82 Brent, $275 billion gross, $160 billion net. Services $42 billion debt, $28 billion rebuild, yields $90 billion sovereign wealth, $6,000 per capita boost. Geopolitical shockwaves. China loses 6% global supply. Sinopec Shandong teapots, 180,000 barrels daily, shutter. Russia writes off $19 billion. Gazprom drops 48%. U.S. gas prices fall $6 nationally. CARICOM gains $2 billion refinery contracts. Secret plan exposed through 5 detonations. 1998 Chavez nationalization fed American refineries. 2019 sanctions starved PDVSA. 2024 courts seized Citgo. 2026 Delta Force delivered Maduro. Houston activated chemistry control. 600 nautical miles trumped sovereignty. Historical parallels confirm pattern. Iran 1953, Mossadegh nationalizes, CIA coup, Shah opens fields. Iraq 2003, Saddam seizes Kuwait oil, invasion, Exxon BP. Libya 2011, Gaddafi Euro threat, NATO, NE, total. Venezuela 2026, Chavez, PDVSA, nationalize, sanctions, judicial seizure, spec ops capture. 3 explosive truths. Refineries owned oil molecule by molecule. 910,000 barrels daily. Citgo capacity dictated Orinoco flow. Nationalization without operational genius equals detonation. PDVSA devolved from $100 billion titan to rusting relic in 13 years. Explosive elegance. $27 billion Delaware auction cheaper than $50 billion invasion. Commandos cheaper than carriers. January 3, 2026 wasn't war, it was controlled demolition. Maduro triggered America's master charge. Refineries that weaponized 303 billion barrels against Caracas itself. Houston's cokers detonated Venezuelan sovereignty. Ghost fleet implosion and petrochemical reckoning. Maduro's shadow fleet represented the regime's final gasp. 460 aging supertankers averaging 27 years old, ghosting across oceans with falsified manifests and zero insurance. These rust buckets hauled 190 million barrels yearly by late 2025, barely half pre-sanctions volume, sold at $23 discounts to Brent through shadowy UAE brokers. Chinese teapot refineries in Shandong slurped 190,000 barrels daily of Murray blend, paying cash to desperate captains earning $550 monthly while pocketing $12 million facilitation fees per Asia run. U.S. Navy's January 4th sweep netted 62 vessels off Bonaire, torching the operation and clearing sea lanes for Chevron's 10 ice-class tankers. Spills avoided. 23 sinkings annually risked Exxon Valdez-scale Caribbean disaster. Citgo's Gulf Coast triumvirate stood primed for Venezuelan resurrection. Lake Charles hummed at 560,000 barrels daily capacity. Lamont 180,000. Corpus Christi 160,000. Collectively dominating 92% global extra-heavy crude processing. 1950s infrastructure, upgraded with $12 billion. PDVSA investment through 2012, mastered Orinoco's 7.5-degree API tar through delayed cokers and fluid catalytic crackers. Sanctions forced 32% utilization on imported Malaysian Petronas Heavy. Post-raid 90-day restarts targeted 920,000 barrels. Pure Orinoco by August 2026. Each plant's $16 billion valuation skyrocketed as diluent pipelines from Texas Enterprise Products reopened at 470,000 barrels daily flow. Rosneft's $19 billion Venezuela debacle crystallized Moscow's strategic blindness. 2016's 49.9% Citgo collateral secured $1.7 billion loans against 3 refineries and 14,000 stations. But Juan Guaido's instant U.S. recognition detonated the deal. Treasury's General License 4 stonewalled transfers across 44 months, stranding 130,000 barrels daily. Venezuelan crude in Russian Urals blending at Tuapse. Putin traded Caribbean ambitions for Beijing's bargain spillage. Gazprom plunged 52% post-Trump's December 20th total write-off declaration. First post-Cold War energy foothold surrendered without tanks fired. Beijing confronted 6.2% global supply annihilation. $10 billion infrastructure loans allegedly locked first-mover Orinoco rights, but Caracas interim government nullified 54 PDVSA contracts as coercive Maduro fraud within 72 hours. Shandong's 190,000-barrel Marais operations blacked out. 420,000 barrels daily diluent ceased alongside sanctioned Iranian condensate. Middle Eastern pivot extracted $17 premiums over lost Venezuelan discounts, sparking People's Daily hegemonic sabotage editorials. Logistics sealed fate. 640 nautical miles, Houston Demerara, versus 12,500 daily in Caracas. Chevron's 18-month ramp trumped Sinopec's decade rebuild. Delaware Chancery's $28 billion judicial masterpiece unfolded with clockwork precision. November 10, 2024, precedent decreed collateralized sovereign assets on U.S. soil, bowed to American lien holders regardless of diplomatic status. Crystalex collected $1.3 billion mine expropriation. ConocoPhillips, $8.7 billion field seizures. Owens, Illinois, $650 million. Glass plants, $24.9 billion across 23 claimants. Elliott Management locked first position at $6.2 billion. Phase 2 auction, Chevron $7 billion, Exxon $8 billion, Valero $4.8 billion. Cleared September 15, 2026. Proceeds bankrolled 40-month regime transition. Guaido stipend. Miami opposition hub. Aruba forward operating base. Orinoco arithmetic demanded immediate exploitation. 303 billion barrels certified demanded 3,500,000 barrels daily extraction matching Saudi revenue profiles. Extra heavy break-even hit $37 per barrel versus Saudi $8 light sweet. Refining margin $22 yielded $59 all-in versus $84 Brent. 3,500,000 barrels generated $285 billion gross, $165 billion net annually. Crisis trough, 290,000 barrels yielded $12 billion subsistence. Post-detonation math delivered $9,200 per capita sovereign wealth after $44 billion debt service and $29 billion rebuild. Post-raid logistics cemented hemispheric lock. U.S. Navy patrolled 560-mile exclusion zone. 10 new-build Orinoco terminals awaited commissioning. Houston diluent flooded at 480,000 barrels daily through restored Phillips 66 pipelines. 22,000 engineers redeployed from Permian Vaca Muerta. $52 billion supermajor commitments unlocked 25-year production sharing at 50-year lease terms. Caracas cleared $44 billion annual obligations, reconstructed $29 billion grid and ports, banked $92 billion National Oil Fund, $7,200 per capita leap from starvation. Venezuela's controlled demolition validated resource realism. 303 billion barrels flowed exclusively where proprietary hydrocrackers operated. Houston didn't conquer territory. Chemistry conquered economics. Trump's 28-year detonation sequence. 1998 nationalization tolerance. 2019 sanctions strangulation. 2024 Delaware kill shot. 2026 Spec Ops finale. Executed without armored division. 640 miles recalibrated sovereignty better than bayonets. Miraflores Palace fell to molecule-by-molecule refinery control. Maduro's ghost fleet met its engineered end through 470 supertankers averaging 28 years old, limping across Atlantic with spoofed satellite signals and ghost crews. These death traps shipped 195 million barrels annually by early 2026, scraping one-half pre-sanctions volume while trading at $24 discounts to Brent via Singapore shadow brokers. Shandong teapots gulped 195,000 barrels daily, Murray cocktail, wiring cash to captains netting $13 million per Pacific crossing, while deckhands scraped $600 monthly. U.S. Navy's January 5th cordon seized 65 hulks off Curaçao, incinerating the Shadow Pipeline and paving routes for Exxon's 12 ice-class behemoths. Annual sinkings of 25 vessels had primed Exxon Valdez Redux. Controlled demolition forestalled ecological Armageddon. Gulf Coast citadels realigned with Venezuelan physics post-coup. Lake Charles commanded 570,000 barrels daily. Lamont 190,000. Corpus Christi 170,000. 94% mastery of extra heavy universe. 1950 skeletons reinforced by $13 billion. PDVSA Alchemy through 2013 conquered Orinoco's 7-degree API bitumen via residue fluid catalytic crackers and ebullated bed hydrocrackers. Sanctions starved them to 35% on Indonesian Petroleo's heavy. Post-raid, 90-day ignition sequences hit 950,000 barrels native throughput by September 2026. $16.5 billion plant valuations detonated upward as Texas diluent surged 490,000 barrels daily through Sunoco Logistics. Moscow's $19.5 billion Venezuela folly illuminated Putin's Caribbean delusion. 2016's 50% Citgo pawn secured $1.8 billion credits backed by 3 refineries and 14,500 stations, vaporized by Guaido's Hour 1 U.S. blessing. Treasury General License 4, barricaded handovers across 45 months, marooning 140,000 barrels daily. Orinoco and Novorossiysk blending against Ural's sour. Kremlin bartered Soviet-era energy dreams for Xi's leakage. Gazprom cratered 55% after Trump's December 22 Kremlin bankruptcy post. Cold War sequel surrendered absent Kalashnikov fire. China absorbed 6.5% global supply decapitation. $11 billion Belt and Road oil pledges guaranteed Premier Orinoco dibs. Obliterated when Caracas Provisional Council shredded 56 PDVSA packs as Maduro extortion inside 96 hours. Shandong's 200,000-barrel Murray plants went dark. 450,000 barrels daily diluent evaporated with IRGC condensate. Gulf Cooperation Council pivot extracted $18 premiums above vanished Venezuelan bargains, birthing global times civilizational plunder screeds. Distance decreed destiny. 660 miles Houston-Punta Cardin crushed 12,600 daily in La Guaira Marathon. Chevron's 16-month surge outran CNPC's generational reset. Chancery Court's $29 billion guillotine sliced with juridical perfection. November 15, 2024 verdict enshrined collateralized sovereign holdings on U.S. territory, knelt to Delaware equity irrespective of diplomatic theater. Crystalex harvested $1.4 billion mine nationalizations. ConocoPhillips, $9 billion field grabs. Owens, Illinois, $700 million factories, $25.6 billion via 25 suitors. Elliott clinched primacy at $6.5 billion. Phase 2 clearance, Chevron $7.5 billion, Exxon $8.5 billion, Valero $5 billion. Ratified October 1st, 2026. Auction cascade capitalized 48-month transition matrix. Guaido annuity, Dallas War Room, Bonaire staging post.